I already told you above in another video with the buff to the reactions that is around here, that the electrocharged and overloaded had been buffed. But at that time, and with early information, and thanks to a subscriber of the channel, heavily, a greeting and 1,000 thanks from here, had not fallen to comment that literally the team of the most played of Genshin Impact, although now in NATLAN there is a Perino in disuse, but of the Archon that, as I said many times when I compared it with RAIDEN, was going to survive over time, and you also know that he is an alter of other characters of the day. RAIDEN Maze Juliaverse Games by Starel Zakaran. It turns out that RAIDEN National is one of the most benefited teams. From buff to reactions, along with some other team that will surprise you as possibly HU TAO. That capable is in the miniature. And not only that, but also the own mechanics of the electrocharged with Auron making a vaporized, and an overload on the electrocharged is going to make him a character who comes in the future called Mabwe, which is an Azhangling 5 stars, and if I'm wrong and it's PS in its default, it will surely come out in Azhangling 5 stars in it. NATLAN somehow comes the Traveler Untied or some other character Pyro. So today, we're going to actually see this buff, analyzing it in depth, and how it would affect the current and future teams of Genshin Impact, and above all, how in my opinion, and as I said in that video, is a very accurate buffer with how risky is in a game where you pay for the characters, make a minimal change not only to reactions as such, but something that affect the combat that is very important in the game and how it is a total success, and is very well done. So leave a good like, a good trust comes, subscribe, and leave a good comment for the algorithm. Thanks for enjoying and watching the video on the channel. It costs you nothing, it's totally free, helps a lot. I recommend and position the video, we grow. The entire channel team is eternally reawakened with you, and welcome to invite you to the directs in which below in the description, we go with the buff to the reactions. Well, let's remember that I told you in the previous video without going into much detail that the electrocharged and the overloads were buffed. And I told you that this mainly affected teams of Bruce and electrocharged that are most played today. They are Novilette teams. But of course Novilettes has seen Buffalo Bike Salonen and was previously playing in electrocharged. Having two teams together with Fischl or with Kuki with Kazuha, Fiorina and Novilette, very powerful, that will be benefited even more, and I don't know to what extent they're going to improve their damage, since those of you who play the Kuki Triple Masters team, Kazuha Triple Mastery, Fiorina and Novilette, and make an initial rotation before starting a single loaded with Novilette already. The enemies disappear with the damage of electro-charged. This can be raised to the maximum power, so ending only with O. Electro-charged equipment is very possible, and I leave you here the sneak peek for later in the video when I spoke of Mavuika, that some core not only of Novilette of electro-charged, but of maybe Ayato electro-charged or Ayato over Vapis. Zayan Ayato in the field, Auron of sub DPs, and Mavuika making it Xiangling doing the reaction, or Xiangling itself surely. Teams called over Vape that probably don't sound like they can improve, and these equipments of a Hydro and an Electro to generate electro-charged, and a super vaporized reaction is made above description of super vaporized, because there are many new people in NATLAN and they will say super what? Basically electro-charged. Keep the hydro and electro elements over the enemy in their head. Editors do it here with kittens for people to understand. If you put a pyro source that I didn't reapply enough pyro to keep pyro and break the chain of reactions, i.e. AC angling, and in the future a Mavuika character, Pyro, or, for example, also an HU TAO infield. The character Pyro on the electrocharged is going to make a vaporized because the enemy has hydro applied, but will also overload the electro, and will make a double reaction, taking much more advantage of its more advantage. Mastery, that this is some kind of clue that Mavuika has mastery. We also talk about it now later in the video, that this team already exists, and there are two main variants that would be a team of Ayato Fischl Xiangling Benete can play, and is quite interesting. A similar team with Tartaglia that has been played several times, quite interesting, but still worse than pure Vape with Kazuha. But the team that looks the most good, the two teams that benefit most from this, is a team of HU TAO double Hydro Fischl, and in the future HU TAO double Hydro Auron, and some team that was also played in the past in one that became one of the best unit teams of the game, and HU TAO. That was the team of HU TAO. Shingu Fischer Zhongli doing this same HU TAO mechanics, doing double reaction on electrocharged but equipment. Core that really benefits most from this, and that makes you notice that you are going to receive a buff and that it is within the plans. Hoyoverze is the RAIDEN national team. If RAIDEN friends in Field Chero or C2, and many people play this team with RAIDEN Chero from. Second character Hydro to apply enough Xingu or Yellen, and here to interesting data number 1 Fiorina on this computer. Does not apply enough Hydro so that the electro cards depending on how as applied Mavuika, but of course without. Xiangling does not work the team if you want to play RAIDEN Fiorina, and Xiangling Bennett does not work. Maybe adjust the Mavuika, so that if RAIDEN Fiorina Mavuika Bennett works, and you have a senseless and apparent prime of the new RAIDEN national. But curiosity number 1 today, the best in or Yakuas, and you can get it with the Xiangling is data number 1. And the number 2 fact is that on this team of RAIDEN, Yellen Xiangling Bennett RAIDEN national of all life surely did. And I dare put my hand on the Mavuika fire if it's going to fit in instead of Xiangling, and we'll have a new roof of the RAIDEN national with the buffo to the reactions electro and overload, and with surely Mavuika that does at least 30% more than the damage is at Xiangling as support outside of this team, and this surely we already transferred the RAIDEN national if friends is possible. That there is a new roof of the RAIDEN national looks all over the world. And it can also be a mistake because this. It can also be that with Mavuika itself, new teams of Overvape appear. That's what I was explaining by closing the HU TAO issue. It happens to him. Let's say Novilette will have good teams from Overvape, and we'll see if they're your best teams doing HU TAO reaction on Electro Hydro, but closing that HU TAO chapter, basically, HU TAO double Hydrozianion with Fiorina and Yellen with double bonus damage inflicted, or even HU TAO Fiorina and Yellen with Shilonen. Currently has its 2 highest ceilings, especially against Multitarieta Chero with Shilonen, and also you make exactly the same. That with the Xayonaga Shilonen C2, if anyone has that team that in the end is a lot of Balenio, right? So is it going to improve HU TAO? Yes. Is it going to give more variety and everything else? Is it going to improve Electrocharged? Yes. It will give more variety and so on. Will it open new teams of Overvape? Of Ayato Fischl or Ayato Ororon, specifically Mavuika. And maybe a Bennett, and I'm talking about Ayato because he benefits from Bennett's attack, from Bennett's pyro consonants. Mavuika, and perhaps an attack Bufo that can give Mavuika to the team apart from Bennett's Bufo, if this is the point of Mavuika video. If it is a Xianyun 5 stars, definitely. And I know it may sound like Phil, but all this doesn't taste good then. We'll know soon enough, but there's a lot of signs that it'll be like this, and I already told you in a video that for the weapons of video. NATLAN, there are also signs that Mavuika's elementary ability is what will do the pyro damage out of the field too. Like Fiorina, like Nahida, like RAIDEN, and the weapon that tells us that increases the damage of the controller that Mavuika is of controllable that increases the elemental skill damage of the character that uses it, and it is quite possible that Mavuika can use that controllable, but the case may be that in NATLAN and following the line, they are making of reviving cores and equipments that they were no longer used as the burn melts with the pyro involved, especially those vaporized over burn with a Moalani where the pyro is involved. And now the undervaporate on electrocharged, which is an overload 2 elements. Bufa dos by these Bufa reactions, it is possible that again, apart from crackling and burning where the pyro is involved, and it's another reaction that wasn't used and that they revived in NATLAN, it might be that this together with Auroron has enabled us certain teams of Overvape that, as I say, super vaporized are not very heard, but is a carry Hydro or Electro in this case having. Auroron as sub-DPS off field outside the electrocharged field is probably for carries Hydro that go with attack too. Benefit from Bennett and the pyro consonants there are to you and Tartaglia, but can also perfectly my billet here and play. Carry Hydro plus Auroron plus Mavuika and late Bennett, or even Shilonen also to bufrate the pyro of Mavuika by double. Reaction or the carry Hydro if it's a Nouvellette, or I don't know anything else, the Electro maybe not because it's more than anything like a driver like an activator so that whoever actually harms is the pyro by reacting or as Aura is played out of the field as a carry Hydro and vice versa, a carry Electro with a Xingqiu with a Furine that may not apply much with a Yellen, with Mavuika, and making the RAIDEN national core. But with little more steroids, this really is where it can involve us. The buff to reactions and is a much more in-depth lies is the buff is an interesting buff. and it is a strong buff. Nah, is a light buff is to say that if it is possible that there will be changes, as I say, above all in the national Raiden, and especially when Mavuika arrives, and above all the appearance of new super prepared overbips equipment that were not previously used. Chicken and Thomas, what an illusion it made me make this video, honestly, and what an illusion it makes me talk about this. Leave me in the comments if you create any other equipment that I lack in the video that can benefit from the reaction of the electro charged from the overload, or both. And again, as I said at the beginning the video, but I already talked in another previous video, also the pure overload goes away. To benefit from this is to say Chevreuse is going to be a better 4 stars and was already good before in overload teams. See guys, with Chevreuse having 1 or 2 more pyro in the team, such as Mavuika and the Traveler pyro, at least we will have more possibility of playing overload teams with Chevreuse, and they will be better. But I didn't say it in the video because I said it in the video previous, and I said it in the beginning a little bit more to leave a good like a good ulti of Vanes, to subscribe, leave a good comment, to thank me for enjoying and watching the channel video. Thanks for all love and support, and for what we continue to grow at incredible levels that I didn't expect. So now for the 200,000 I exploit the button to subscribe with bell watch out and bye.